From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show. This is Anna Little, and we're coming to you live from our flagship station, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet. And don't forget, we have those new broadcast partners. You know, they're real important. We've got CPRWorldwideMedia.com, and we've also got that Listen Live link with them. And then you can listen to Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, any day, by calling 832-999-1199. But we've got a real treat for you this Friday. Usually, you might remember, listeners, that Rick Trader, the producer, usually is on, and I co-host with him, Anna Little, on Fridays. But today, Rick has taken a day off, so I'm getting the opportunity to share the co-host position today with the one and only Sharon Engel. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anna. What a build-up. You know, Rick always says we're going to make radio history. Well, maybe today you and I will make some radio history.
Oh, I'm sure we will. And anytime we get together, it's always a fun time, Sharon. Listeners, I just love this woman. She's such an inspiration. Sharon Engel, go get him.
Well, of course, you're a tiger yourself, Anna Little, and I'm still passing out the legal way to become a citizen for those who have entered the country illegally. And you're probably the foremost expert on how that's done and why we don't need a DREAM Act, why we don't immigration reform. There seems to be enough law, and you are such a supporter of securing the borders. People need to know that that's really the first step in all of this, is we need to secure those borders. Then we need to look at the laws that are already in place.
Well, you're so right, Sharon. And, you know, I do, in my other day job, the law office, the immigration lawyer job that I do get a chance to speak to a lot of immigrants who have entered this country legally, and they're with us, Sharon. They know that they followed the law. They waited sometimes lengthy periods of time. They paid the money up in advance to come into this country legally and to do everything according to the rule of law. And they don't like the fact that there's a movement in this country to reward bad behavior by folks who just ignored the law and came in illegally. So I really think that there are many immigrants out there who are with us on this issue. And, you know, we shouldn't let the liberals or the left-wing propagandists try to define the conversation on this issue. You and I and others like us, listeners, should be discussing this issue rationally, and we should be talking about the fact that there's safety in following the rule of law. And many of those people coming to this country, they are craving that, an honest and direct and forthright government, because many of them are abused by their governments back at home.
Well, and we're starting to feel abused by our government and the way they're handling this whole situation, and especially with these latest unaccompanied alien children. It's just amazing to me that we're having to deal with this now, and the border issue seems to just become embroiled in our politics these days. It was interesting to see what happened in Virginia over this issue, and we hadn't really started to see this latest influx. It was just the awareness that people have in Virginia that our legislators in Washington, D.C. haven't got a clue when it comes to this issue. They don't really understand that our country is based, as you say, on the rule of law, and that people have been immigrating here for centuries now, coming precisely because of our Constitution and our rule of law. And they are angry, as you said, Anna Little, to find out that our president and his regime has just thrown down the borders and said, y'all come.
Yeah, and that's just unacceptable all around, especially the fact that there are the criminals coming in, and we're actually rewarding this human trafficking that goes on across our borders. Now, Sharon, this is the United States of America. We have a responsibility to live up to the principles on which this nation was founded, and human trafficking cannot be permitted within our borders, across our borders, or at the entry points. And we know as a government that these coyotes and these human traffickers, they've been active at the border, and instead of focusing on them, we're focusing on the victims. We need to make sure that we enforce the law as it comes to the criminals that are making a profit on the heads of these immigrants coming in and out of the country. And I need to see more from our government on that, and I think our listeners would agree.
I think you're right. And the other thing that we seem to be sliding over is that we're allowing more criminals to come in. Many of these unaccompanied alien children are not little kids. They're not coming to be with their parents. These are hardened gang members who are actually bringing their crime right in onto U.S. soil. And that comes from the mouths of Border Patrol that say, this is just amazing what's coming into this country under the guise of unaccompanied children.
Right. And a lot of them, I think at one point there was a percentage given, there was about 80% or better than 80% were over the age of 14. Now that's working age, even here in the United States. So, a lot of it could be economic factors as well. And, there are gang problems in these countries, and those gang members are under the age as well of 18. And so those are the ones that are coming across the border as well, and they're not escaping. They're going to continue their activities here. So it's a real security risk. It's a problem.
It is. So the answer then is to secure the borders, look at our laws, but finally people want to say, well, what are you going to do with those 11 million or whatever? I don't know how they come up with that number, because it's very difficult to figure out if people are here legally or illegally. It's an underground situation, and they really don't come forth and just say, well, you should know that I'm illegal. But sometimes they do, that those that have been here several years, they do come forward and tell the listeners how our rule of law really does help to solve that problem.
Well, there are definitely, there is eligibility under the laws that exist today for many of those who are unlawfully present in the United States to improve their situation. Now, if they're here for a period of time and they've got U.S. citizen children, or perhaps a resident or a citizen child, spouse or a parent, that kind of immediate relative gives them the eligibility for something called cancellation of removal. Now, many listeners may not like that because it's still a reward for having come into the country illegally. But what it means is that with the length of time that a person is here, 10 years or more, and you begin to feel sympathetic for that person because they have children here or whatever, there is already a provision that we the people promulgated through our representatives. It is the rule of the law in our land, and we should enforce that law. We don't need an amnesty. We don't need a DREAM Act. What we need is for people who are not lawfully present to do one of two things: come forward and assert eligibility under the laws that exist today, or go back home and get yourself here legally, because that's the way the law works, and we need to respect the rule of law.
And we need to go to a break.
That's right, I'm seeing it. So with that, we're going to go to break, and you are listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show, broadcasting to you live today from WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. please check out our websites at ccrshow.com and conservativecommandosradioshow.com. And Sharon Engel and Anna Little will be back with you right after the break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos Radio Show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. At last, it must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. listeners, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to www.vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show at any time, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Well, welcome back, listeners. You're speaking today with Anna Little and Sharon Engel. And I think it'd be a good idea, Sharon, if we go through who our guests are going to be today.
Absolutely. Who do you have on at 3:35 today?
Well, at 3:35, I'm going to be speaking with Robert Vandervoort. He's got a wide variety of campaign and legislative experience at both the federal and the state level, and he's worked on Capitol Hill and at the Maryland State Legislature in Annapolis. And prior to Pro English, he worked for a political consulting firm in Virginia, and he's managing ongoing projects of Pro English and its publicity. He's originally from Illinois, and he now lives in Washington, D.C., and we're excited to talk to him today because it seems that there's a school principal who was fired after telling Hispanic students at a Texas school to follow the law in Texas to speak English. And so this is a very important topic, and we're going to be excited to talk to Robert about that, Robert Vandervoort. And then after that, I think I get the opportunity to get our second guest as well. This is Christina Arriaga. Now, she is an executive director of the Beckett Fund since 2010, and she leads a team of lawyers and communication professionals who defend our first freedom in the U.S. and abroad. And she joined the Beckett Fund in '95, bringing many years of experience into her fight for liberty, which is also our fight for liberty. And the message that we're going to be talking to her about is, the freedom of religion, which is the most important here. And it seems that, there's a need at this point to talk about it for many, many reasons. We've got some things that are going on domestically here in the U.S., but we've also got stuff going on I don't want to go too far into the detail, but all over the world, okay? Religious freedom is certainly under attack everywhere, and we need to talk about our own IRS. So I'm really excited to talk to Christina. I'm sure she's going to take us in broad directions on this topic, and I have to support the work that she does and the Beckett Fund generally. Who do you have, Sharon?
Well, I have Amber Barno. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. She is also a military advisor at Concerned Veterans for America. And Amber is on the board of directors at the Independent Fund, an organization that supports wounded veterans. Now, we're going to be talking to Amber about a bill that Obama has signed that would open outside care to veterans. So today we're going to talk about this bill with Amber. Now, she hasn't written anything, but she's certainly an expert on it. And we want to know, is the money that Obama wants to throw at this, because that's always his solution. He says he wants to open it up, but really he just wants to throw us into more debt. He's talking $17 billion now, and we want to know, is that really going to fix the problem? Is that what fixes the VA? And we also want to know if he's so interested in outside care for veterans, does that mean he's going to open up choice for them? So I'm interested to hear what Amber Barna thinks of this bill that's just been signed and where it's going, and if this is really going to be good for our veterans or if it's just going to be another one of those spend more liberal Band-Aids that Obama so quickly puts on problems.
Yeah, and these Band-Aids, they're not solutions, right, Sharon?
They don't look like solutions to me any more than the solutions that he's proposed for everything else. It seems like just to get to be greater and greater, and it's under his watch these scandals have become apparent, and I don't think he can harken back to anyone else. He's been in there 6 years, and the scandals just grow. And we're right on the precipice of another scandal, I think, with this ISIS invasion into Iraq. What's going on there, Anna Little? What do you think is going on?
Well, I've been watching the news, and you can only trust the news so far, but it sure seems to me like we have got more than ethnic cleansing. We've got straight-out genocide going on at the hands of this radical, extreme terrorist group, ISIS. You know, they want to create that caliphate, and they're working hard at doing that. They've gained a lot of ground in recent weeks and months on this topic, but I think the focus right now is the fact that they are cleansing their region, the jurisdiction that they seem to have gotten control over. Not only are they marking Christians for death in certain locations in this caliphate that they claim to have created, but they're also marking other minority religions for death. And I think the most recent news on it is that they've actually captured some women from this minority religious group, and hundreds of them. And, you know, I think the idea is to make it impossible for this particular group to exist in the future. I mean, it's just a terrible, barbaric situation. And, you know, I think it's reminiscent.
When we think about genocide, we think about the Holocaust and what Hitler did to the Jews, but we seem to forget that when Hitler was exterminating Jews, he was also exterminating Christians in huge numbers, in the millions. In fact, some say that it rivals the millions of Jews that he exterminated. So when what happens to Jews also happens to Christians. We're next. And being a Christian nation, we should be very alert to this problem and wondering what's going on when people like Rand Paul say, well, it would be good for Israel if we weren't to aid them anymore. Hello. We're aiding Hamas. What's going on here with our foreign policy and with those people that we seem to think are our allies? So I don't know what your take is on this, but we don't usually think of Christians being in the forefront of genocide. But actually, we've been watching it happen in Sudan and now in Iraq.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's more just religion in general needs to be protected as it is in the United States Constitution under the First Amendment. We absolutely cannot permit this kind of activity, violent activity, on the part of ISIS. And we've watched it in World War II, and we say never again, and here it is again. But, you know, Sharon, we've got to go to break, so, you know, time just flies when we're having fun here. But I've got to take us to break. So, listeners, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with our new Internet broadcast partners, CCRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. So please check out our websites while you're at the break, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Sharon Angle and I will be right back with our first guest after the break.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues liberalism, and the Main Street media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues, take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. "Give us freedom" was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Bonnier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. You're speaking with Anna Little and Sharon Ingalls. It's Friday. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibерtyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos radio show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, any day, from any phone, calling 832-999-1199. But listeners, we're really excited because we've got our first guest available here, and the honor of that introduction is mine. So Sharon, I'm going to go right into the introduction for Robert Vandervoot. Robert Vandervoot has a wide variety of campaign and legislative experience at both the federal and the state level. He has worked on Capitol Hill and at the Maryland State Legislature in Annapolis. Prior to working at Pro English, he worked for a political consulting firm in Virginia. As the executive director, Robert manages the ongoing projects of Pro English and its publicity. He's originally from Illinois and now lives in Washington, D.C., but we are very glad that we can welcome him today, Robert Vandervoot, to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Robert, welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks. It's great to be back.
Well, I think we've got a terrific topic to discuss here, given the fact that you are doing what you're doing in your business life. And there's this principal of the Hempstead Middle School, which is located outside Houston, Texas. And I guess her name is Amy Lacey. And apparently she's lost her job. And it was because she wanted to, I guess, enforce the state law and the program of the school as an ESL campus. Her statement was that her students in the school ought to be speaking English. Do you want to explain to us a little detail about what happened here?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, when we first heard about this story, this came about several months ago, and we actually reached out to Amy Lacey to offer our help and support, and she informed us she was actually had lawyers that were representing her, so she didn't need our legal support, but we're certainly supportive of her and people in situations like this, because it's really there's something quite wrong when a teacher can get fired for actually encouraging her students to speak English in class, and it's a sign of the times, and it's troubling, and I think it could mean that we're moving in a bad direction on these issues. So I think that this is a woman who should never have been fired. She was just doing her job, quite frankly.
Yeah, and we're talking about a middle school. The ages there, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're dealing from about maybe 13, 14 to 15, maybe 16. I mean, you're talking about vulnerable ages. Kids are testing their limits. Very often they're testing authority. It seems that Principal Lacey indicated that teachers had reported to her that they had experienced instances in which the students had been asked to stop talking during instruction. Well, that seems like an appropriate request by a teacher to a student, but the students were responding that it was their right to speak Spanish, and that they were doing so ignoring the fact that they shouldn't have been speaking in any language at all while the teacher's instructing the class. Did Principal Lacey speak to you at all about that, or do you have anything to add on that?
Well, we didn't speak directly on that. We only spoke briefly. Just I was happy to encourage her and offer our support. But I did read when she came out with her statement this week. She's allowed to talk about the case now, and I was troubled by the fact that a lot, just as you described, students were speaking in the middle of class. The teachers would tell the students to stop. And apparently, she says it even went further than that. The students would have been taught to claim that people were being racist, that the teachers were racist because they were asked to stop speaking in Spanish, even when it was in the middle of class and disruptive. So, I think that's another warning sign. We're teaching people that whenever you have a problem, just call your opponent a racist, even if you're wrong, and that somehow exonerates you. And I think that's it sounds like that was happening in this school, which is another reason why former principal Lacey was trying to get the students to keep speaking in English in class, and of course, even if the student was speaking in English out of turn, they, as you say, they should have been stopped, and so it goes both ways.
Yeah, it certainly does. But, I think we should talk a little bit about the fact that Hempstead Middle School was also considered an ESL campus. Now, as I understand that, ESL stands for English as a Second Language, right? Meaning that folks that were students that were attending there might not have had English as their first language, and so the campus there at Hempstead Middle School, one of the purposes was to help these students learn how to speak English. Am I correct about that?
That's right. That's my understanding. I believe that the school is about 50% Hispanic, so and with a heavy concentration of English as second language learners, and as you indicate, it does no benefit to these students to not learn English. In fact, I would think that most of the parents, especially the Hispanic parents, would want those kids learning English. I suspect many of them do. I think there's probably what happened, and we see this happen all too often. There probably were some small group of loudmouth activists who, claimed that this was somehow racist, what the teacher requested, when in fact what she was doing was really a great service to these kids. If they're never going to learn English, they're never going to be able to assimilate and get ahead and earn good jobs and all those things.
Yeah, I think you make very, very important points there, Robert. And, I think it's also troubling to me, and perhaps to our listeners as well, that here is a principal of a middle school on an ESL campus with a stated purpose of helping these students to learn English, who has declared that the students should speak English, and then she gets fired? How does that happen? And why is it that she has not been able to reverse that situation?
Well, it's a good question, and it's definitely a sign of political correctness run amok. That you would think that maybe there were some hotheads who complained about Amy Lacey's request in the community, or some students who did, but you would think that cooler heads would have prevailed at the higher levels where the administrators were concerned, and the fact that they want to have nothing to do with this, and with Amy Lacey, I think is a sign that either these people were intimidated, or they are themselves very politically correct in their outlook. And in fact, your listeners may find it interesting to know we're facing a similar situation in Arizona. Pro English is involved. We're helping a nursing student, and it's actually kind of the flip side of Amy Lacey's story. We're helping a nursing student named Terry Bennett, and she was one of the few English speakers in her class. And when she went to the teachers and said that, I'd like my classmates to speak English so I can do these group projects, they called her a racist and branded her a bigot, and they gave her a 9-month suspension. And she came to us.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Robert, we're going to have to go to a break right now. Can you hold on for about 2 minutes? Because we're not finished talking about this issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commando Radio Show studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, any day by calling 832-999-1199. And while we're at the break, please check out our website, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. We'll be right back with Robert Vandervoort after the break.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners, to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening, Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show anytime, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. But when we left off for the break, we were talking about a very important topic with Robert Vandervoort of Pro English. We've been talking about that principal from the Hempstead Middle School, Principal Amy Lacey, and we were having a very important discussion about speaking English according to the Texas state law. And today, listeners, you'll remember that I'm co-hosting. I have the honor of co-hosting with Sharon Engel. So, Robert, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon because she's got some questions for you, too.
Okay, great.
Hello, Robert. It's so good to have you on the show. I'm so glad you're here. I want you to explain to us a little bit about Pro English.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a nonprofit organization. We have members in all 50 states. We're celebrating our 20th year as an organization that is working at the federal, state, and local level to make English the official language for government. And we believe that would cut down on unnecessary translation costs and would also help promote assimilation in this country. So we get involved also in lawsuits to defend people who are English speakers and English workplace policies. And your listeners can find out a little more about us at proenglish.org, and they can also sign up for our monthly email alerts at that website, proenglish.org.
Now, I was under the understanding that way back during the first stages of our country, there was a vote to decide whether our official language would be English or German, and English won. Is that not correct? And why do we have to have the official language be English? Why do we have to make that decision again here over 200 years later?
Well, that's a good question, and actually that's not 100% accurate. If you refer the listeners to the website proenglish.org, we have a thing about myths about official English, and there is this story that circulates that we came within a few votes of making German the official language. However, that wasn't the case. The Congress in 1795 considered printing federal laws in German as well as in English. However, that never came to a vote, and so there was never an actual vote on making German the official language. There was, however, what your listeners might be interested in knowing, one of the first bills that President George Washington signed was a bill that would require that all federal regulations be printed in English. So certainly our founding fathers were of the opinion that, you know, that these rules at least should be in English, if not all our other documents.
So let's fast forward now to the present and the case that's before us with our Amy Lacey, the principal who was fired. You said that you called and said you would send attorneys in to help her. Now, would that have been at her cost? She would have had to pay those attorneys, or would you have provided those for her free of charge? Or how would you have gone about defending her? I wonder, now that she's lost her case, how that might have gone differently.
Well, those are all good questions, and essentially we did offer to get involved with her case. She, as a teacher, she pays to the Texas Teachers Association, sort of the teachers unions, and they provided her with attorneys through the union, and because she was a contract employee, that's basically what they were arguing about, basically, and so we would have been happy to get involved, but she didn't see the need at that point because she was already being represented. We would not have charged her, like the case that we're involved in Arizona. This nursing student, Terry Bennett, came to us, and you can read some more about the case. We have a good Washington Times op-ed that we link to about it on our website, proenglish.org. And basically, this woman was discriminated because she wanted people to speak English when she was in class, and it's a sign that, that there's a lot of PC bullying going on. And we're lucky that in a state of Arizona, they do have an official English law on the books, and that's one of the laws we're using to represent her in court.
Now, I'm suspicious of the teachers union because they seem to be very PC-oriented. In fact, they seem to lean left a lot. Were you suspicious when they said they would defend her?
Well, at that point, I did not want to press too much. I mean, when someone's already represented by attorneys, you really have to kind of defer to their choice on these matters. So it wasn't really something that there wasn't much more at that point that, in terms from the legal perspective, that I felt we could get involved with.
Now, you say that you have attorneys that are ready to go in and defend these cases. How do you pay for that if the client isn't the one that pays for that? How do you do that at Pro English?
Well, basically, we rely on contributions from our donors, from people like your listeners, people across the country who donate to us online, people who respond to this issue, who think that English should be the official language, and who hate to see that people like Amy Lacey are having to go through this. So it's basically we get a lot of support from good Americans across the country to help us pay for these sorts of cases when we do get involved with them.
Well, Robert, I'm really proud of you for choosing to work with Pro English. It's not always easy in this era of political correctness to take a stand for the rule of law and what would make life more efficient and more simple here in a unified America. I mean, I do remember being taught that America was very much a melting pot, a place where people could come, assimilate, and we would become one nation. And while we all have heritage that is historically in our background, and no one's asking you to leave that behind as your history, when we do come to the United States at some point as immigrants, most of us, and then we're here for generation after generation after generation, we need to identify ourselves as Americans. And I think that the work that you're doing here at Pro English is very much in line with that. And do you see the similarity in those two analogies?
I think that was very well put. I couldn't agree with it more. I think you're absolutely right.
I'm proud of you. It's not easy to do in this day and age. Sharon wants me to ask you, can Principal Lacey appeal the decision in her case? Is it possible that you could still help her?
Well, that is a possibility. I assume that's something that her attorneys are already looking at. So that's something where it's dependent on the employment laws and the contract laws in the state of Texas that she and the school had agreed to. So I do think that this may not be the final word. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this.
Yeah, I would hope that it's not, because, it bothers me still, nags at me, that there's state education rules with regard to the English language, and she had to follow the law in addition to the policy of the campus on which she was serving as principal. It just seems like the deck was stacked against her there, and it doesn't seem like the result is very fair.
I think you're absolutely right. I think this woman was trying to do the right thing. I think she was doing the right thing. There was no ill motive on her part, and I think what's happened is she ran into a buzzsaw of political correctness, and they've come up with some bad results for her, and too often we do see that in this culture today, where people, good Americans, are trying to do the right thing, and then they get smeared and attacked as racist and bigoted and that sort of thing. So it is troubling, and I hope that she's...
And what message is being sent to the students here? They've obviously spoken out of turn already, because they're speaking while there's instruction going on. They've chosen to do so in their native language, probably so the teacher can't understand what they're saying to each other, which is typical among teenagers, the passing of notes, cryptic notes. I mean, come on, we've all been teenagers. We know what we all do at that age, at that period of time in our life. What message have we sent to the students by this result?
Well, you're right, and in fact, it sends a bad message to the wider society. It's the multiculturalists can claim they've gotten another scalp. I mean, and the students will see that, if we allege that someone's a racist, we can get our principal fired. And what's next? Their teacher, or, student teachers? I mean, where does it end? I think, and I think that's what's the most troubling thing about this case.
And what happens to Principal Lacey? Can she get another job now that she's lost this case? Another question coming from Sharon.
My understanding is that she would be still able to find employment in another school. That this matter was just between her and the Hempstead Middle School. So, I believe that she's based on that. Hopefully, she can find a school that would be more in line with the idea that people who come here and want to succeed need to learn English. So I'm hopeful that she will be able to land on her feet and find a good job in a more accommodating school in Texas than this one, which was obviously, it seems to me, was a pretty divisive place for her.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and time always flies, as I say, when we're having fun here at Conservative Commandos. Just remind our listeners where they can follow up with you and follow your work from here forward.
Certainly. They can go to our webpage, proenglish.org. We update it virtually daily with stories like this that are in the news about the English language. And if they want to get more involved and find out how bills are passing in or not passing in Congress on this issue, they can sign up for our email alerts at proenglish.org, and we'd be happy to keep them up to date.
That's great. Robert, thanks so much for spending this time with us this afternoon. We hope to have you come back again soon.
I would look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Listeners, that was Robert Vanderboot of Pro English, and you can follow him at proenglish.org. But we are coming to you live from the CTRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet, with our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. We will be right back after this break with our next guest, Sharon Engel, coming back to you after the break.
They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots,
The Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Man your battle stations.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening, Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. Now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show anytime, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. So we are really back here, Sharon Engel and Anna Little, and we're ready to go. And I'm just checking with John Forsyth whether we have our next guest ready. We're hoping to be speaking with Christina Arriaga, and I'm wondering, John, is she with us? Yeah, she's with us, Anna. Terrific. So I'm going to go right then into the introduction, and I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about Christina. Christina Arriaga is the Executive Director of the Beckett Fund since 2010. She leads a team of lawyers and communications professionals who defend our first freedom in the U.S. and abroad. Christina first joined the Beckett Fund in 1995, bringing many years of experience in the fight for liberty. Christina also spent time as an intergovernmental relations officer at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, where she reported to former Ohio Secretary of State J. Kenneth Blackwell and Secretary Jack Kent, and then later as a 4-year appointee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Christina Arriaga has written a message as the Executive Director of the Beckett Fund, and we're going to talk to her about that today. Christina, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you because I know the work that you do at the Beckett Fund is so very important. In this particular case, we're going to be talking about an instance in which, if it were not for the Beckett Fund, the public might not know some of the priorities or goals of the IRS. So why don't you tell us a little about it? Something about freedom of religion being infringed.
Sure. And just to do a quick recap, as you know, we at the Beckett Fund are a public interest law firm. We represent pro bono all of our clients. We most recently went to the Supreme Court and won on behalf of the Green family of Hobby Lobby. We also represent Little Sisters of the Poor. These may be cases that your audience may have heard about. We defend the free expression of all religious traditions from A to Z, we like to say, from Anglican to Zoroastrian. So in this case, we intervene in a case that was filed by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is a Madison, Wisconsin-based group that wants to wipe out any talk about religion or about God from the public square. And they sued the Internal Revenue Service, telling them that the IRS was not, in fact, doing its job, that the IRS had to make sure that preachers, pastors, imams, rabbis did not say anything from the pulpit that was construed as in any way political. And in the process of doing that, we at the Beckett Fund intervened, and we found out through this process that the IRS, in fact, has something called, and I wish I were making this up because it is so Orwellian, the Political Activities Referral Committee. The Political Activities Referral Committee. Now, I'm sure you hear an accent. I'm Cuban. My parents escaped Fidel Castro's Cuba. And that committee that reminds me of a Cuban committee called the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution that existed in every block. I mean, our government has taxpayer-funded department within the Internal Revenue Service that monitors what preachers are saying. And in fact, the IRS sent documents to the Freedom from Religion and Atheist group telling them that 99 churches were in fact being targeted as being worrisome. In other words, that they had violated this prohibition. Now, if I may explain quickly what the prohibition is, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation is referring to the 1954 Johnson Amendment. This was an amendment that was made to the IRS Code in 1954 to forbid nonprofits from engaging in electioneering, from talking about campaigns. In the process, it has been extended, in the view of Freedom from Religion Foundation, to apply to preachers. So even though since 1954 we are not aware of a single time the government has actually been successful in prosecuting a preacher or a rabbi for speaking about important moral issues to their congregation, this produces something called a chill factor. In other words, preachers and ministers are really concerned that what they're saying may be construed as in violation of the 1954 Johnson Amendment, and in that case, the penalty from the government would be that they would lose their 501c3 status. In other words, they would no longer be a nonprofit. So it's outrageous that the Freedom from Religion Foundation received these documents. The Becket Fund never did. We don't know which churches are being investigated or monitored. And this is, again, a taxpayer-funded department within the Internal Revenue Service.
Well, you know, Christina, what's very troubling to me about these 90 churches or 99 churches that are being discussed in this letter is that they are churches. I mean, we're talking about the exercise of religion being regulated based on a 501c3 status by a government agency, the IRS, by the way, whose leadership is not elected by the people. So I just am troubled by all of this. Talk to us a little bit. How is this legally permissible that the IRS be regulating these churches in this way?
It is not legally permissible. It is a misinterpretation of the 1954 Johnson Amendment. But we at the Becket Fund are very concerned about the government's aggressive stance. For instance, just a few years ago, the government argued that it had the right to interfere in how churches and synagogues assign and name their ministers. There's a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court called Hosanna Tabor. We at the Becket Fund represented a small Lutheran church that had fired a minister who was teaching at their school, and the government argued, hey, the churches don't have rights to choose their own ministers. In fact, we, the government, can intervene. And the Supreme Court decided in favor of our client, Hosanna Tabor, 9-0. It agreed with the Becket Fund that the government does not have a right to intervene or interfere in the affairs of churches. So the Supreme Court has been able to keep it at bay. Just very recently, as you know, the government argued that once you make $1, once you make money, you no longer have a right to religious liberty. That's absurd. Nothing in our Constitution, nothing in any statute in Congress says that once you start a corporation like Hobby Lobby did and other businesses do, that you no longer have religious liberty. And the government has been pursuing this stance very aggressively recently. That really concerns us at the Becket Fund, and that's why we're so vigilant of any step that the government takes to prevent people from being able to exercise their religion and live according to their deeply held convictions. That's our American birthright. Our rights do not come from the state. Therefore, the state cannot take them away.
Well, I agree with all of that, and I'm just flabbergasted by some of the information you shared with us today, because I remember, looking back to the founding of this nation, I seem to remember that it was the free exercise of religion that was a motivator there, and they certainly didn't want to have to be monitored by government in their associations with each other. I think I remember redcoats walking into people's dining rooms to break up meetings, and that was one of the motivating factors. So it sure seems to me like this is pretty un-American. Do you have any comments on that as we go into...
Oh, it is absolutely un-American. Our First Amendment has two parts to it. First of all, it says that the government shall not establish a religion. In other words, you cannot prefer one religion over the other. No president can declare this nation to be a Catholic nation or a Jewish nation. And secondly, it says that the government will not interfere in the free exercise of religion. In other words, the government cannot tell you you can only go to church or pray at home. You should be able to live according to your religious beliefs at work and at home. And in fact, the Supreme Court recently decided in the town of Greece that public prayer is also allowed in the legislature. Now, only 20 years ago, Congress was united in this. There was a almost unanimous passage of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act precisely affirming that Americans, individuals, have a right to live in this manner. And only a few years later, in the year 2000...
I've got to interrupt you.
Sorry.
Hold that thought for me. Can you hang on for about 2 minutes while we do a station?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Sure.
Hang on to it because it's very enthusiastic and we want to pick right up. We're coming to you live, listeners, from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our new partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please check out our websites at ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. And we'll be right back with Christina Ariaga after the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I... Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show with Anna Little and Sharon Engel at 9 p.m. this evening, Eastern Time, you can log on to VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to CPRWorldwideMedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at any time, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. But this segment, we have been speaking very enthusiastically with Christina Arriaga of the Beckett Fund. And Christina, I have my co-host, Sharon Engel, on the other line, and she's got some questions for you. So I'm going to turn it right over to Sharon right now.
Christina, thank you so much for being on our show and representing this issue. I have been acquainted for the last 6 years with a group that sponsors Pulp Freedom Sunday. And, of course, this year it's October the 5th. Do you have any contact with that group?
Oh, absolutely. It's being organized by Alliance Defending Freedom, correct?
It is, but it's really pastors that are coming forward on this Sunday particularly to challenge the IRS right at this point.
Yes, for many years there have been many pastors who have purposefully challenged the Internal Revenue Service and taped their sermons and sent them in. And absolutely, we at the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty fully support the idea that pastors and preachers and imams and rabbis should be able to talk to their congregation about matters that are important to their faith. And these matters, these moral matters, often life issues and death issues and the definition of marriage and the definition of religious liberty. And the preachers should be able to say any of this from the pulpit without any interference whatsoever from the government.
Well, coincidentally, there's about 100 pastors that participated last year, I guess, and are any of these 99 that were investigated, are they some of those pastors?
Well, that is a terrific question. We do not know. It's amazing. The Internal Revenue Service, we at the Beckett Fund requested and had the right to access the same exact documents, and instead of sending them to us, they send them directly from this atheist organization, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and we haven't had any access to those documents. The reason those documents surfaced was because we at the Beckett Fund intervened, and then in the motion to dismiss, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, in essence, was in collusion, we believe, with the IRS to have this case dismissed. The judge dismissed this case, and as a result, all those documents now go back to the vault. Now there's something called the Freedom of Information Act, which allows individuals and organizations to request those documents. So we understand there have been several requests of those documents, and we will continue to request those documents, but we don't know which 99 churches are being investigated.
Well,
we suspect
now
neither do the
they're
churches,
being investigated. They're being investigated, and they said they violated this prohibition of the Johnson Amendment. Has anyone been prosecuted, or has any punishment been meted out? What has happened to these churches that have been investigated?
No, we do not. We have not seen that any of the churches have been actually investigated, and this is the key to this case. We believe that the reason the Internal Revenue Service has not actually investigated or penalized any of these churches is because they stand on a very, very weak leg. And I think that we could very much represent the churches and argue very effectively in court that this is not what was intended by the Johnson Amendment. But by not prosecuting, what they're doing is constantly trying to scare these preachers into saying, if you say something that we don't agree with, we will go ahead and investigate you. And many of these churches are poor, and they're serving the homeless, and they're serving elderly and sick people, and they do not want to risk losing their nonprofit status and therefore all their donations by saying anything that might be investigated. So you see, by not actually taking this case to court, it creates a cycle of ever chilling and fearful effect on these pastors and preachers.
So this is just one of more of these IRS scandalous things where they're intimidating people who are trying to do the right thing and trying to follow the law, but it's an intimidation. They don't really have a leg to stand on, as you said. They're just trying to frighten or keep pastors inside those churches talking about things that don't really count in our culture. Is that kind of what's going on here, is just basic intimidation?
Yes. In fact, we believe that had the 1954 Johnson Amendment been in place, many of the wonderful sermons that have been given to eliminate for the emancipation of slaves, or even for the freedom of our own country, or the speeches that Dr. King made. Many of those speeches would have fallen under the prohibition, and these preachers would have had to go back and edit and be fearful about what they said. Reverend King and preached with many other preachers and rabbis who were supporting the civil rights movement, and he would have had to go back and take a quick look at what he was saying.
Well, you know, I think, Christina, in some ways, we've evolved under the watch of we the people, and I have to say that because we are in charge, but we've evolved into a government that is fearful of individuals who speak out. And it seems to me like the IRS seems to be an arm or a branch of this government that seems to be fearful or threatened by people who speak out. And yet we are a nation that is founded on that very act, that collective act of we the people who stood up, spoke out, and then fought a revolution and won to give birth to a nation where freedom is supposed to reign above all else. And, you know, I think you've summed it up nicely. I do want to direct our listeners to, I guess I have to try to give this website, the BeckettFundCommunity.org, where you've put your statement, and perhaps you can do a better job when I turn it over to you, leading them to this. But in the end of your statement, Christina, you very artfully put it, if the government decides what makes acceptable preaching, who are the preachers to disagree? And Christina says, well, I'll tell you who they are. They are Americans with constitutionally guaranteed protections, and we at the Beckett Fund exist to defend them. Well, hoorah to you, Christina, and the Beckett Fund, because I think that's what America's all about. Go ahead and give me your comments on that.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, it's BeckettFund.org, BeckettFund.org. And again, we're a public interest law firm. We represent all of our clients for free. We exist to defend the free expression of all religious traditions. And as you hear from my accent, I'm Cuban. I feel very passionate about this. My mother was in a concentration camp in Germany. My father escaped Castro's Cuba. And I grew up in a household where I was told, I was taught, that the government does not have a right to intervene, to interfere with our beliefs, with the way we conduct ourselves. And that was what drove our founding fathers to state that our rights come from God. That does not mean it comes from a particular, this is not about who God is. This is about who we are. Our rights do not come from the government. Therefore, the government cannot touch them or take them away. And regrettably, we have seen this tremendous confusion right now where the government believes it has a role in interfering, but also we as Americans, you say that, we have to take action. We have to be informed. We have to inform ourselves. We have to be involved in local politics. We have to understand who's our councilman, what kind of ordinances are being passed in our city. Many times people come to me and say, well, you know, there's nothing I can do about Washington, D.C. Washington is where things end, not where things start. They start in your neighborhood. They start in your church. They start in your prayer group. They start in your Bible reading group. Be informed that your rights are being taken away, and we're allowing this because we're numb. We are not paying attention to what is going on, and we need to keep on fighting.
Well, Christina, you are singing my song because I believe that we, the people, are in charge and that we have the obligation, not just the right, to stand up and direct this government, and that we do so through our representatives. So tell people again where they can find your work and follow the Beckett Fund.
Sure. Please follow me. Subscribe to my newsletter. I put out a newsletter every week that talks about what the government is up to, what kind of cases we're battling, and how you can help. And the address is BeckettFund.org.
Is?
I'm sorry, BeckettFund.org, and that's BeckettFund.org. It was named after Thomas Lee Beckett.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We've got to go to break, and we hope to have you come back soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're coming to you live, listeners, from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet. Check out those websites, Conservative Commandos Radio Show and CCRshow.com. Anna Little and Sharon Engel will be back after the break.
Make my decision. That's my prerogative. don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Man your battle stations.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show with Anna Little and Sharon Engel at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on the Listen Live link. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show anytime, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And I have had the honor of being a co-host with Sharon Engel this afternoon, this beautiful Friday, and she's going to lead us into our next guest. Take it away, Sharon.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Amber Barno. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, a writer and commentator. Her articles have been published in various news sites such as FoxNews.com, The Hill, The Daily Caller, and many other regarding national security, foreign policy, military affairs, politics, women's issues, and veterans issues. Amber has been featured on TV and radio programs including Fox News, Hannity, Megyn Kelly, Fox and Friends, Fox Business, CNBC, ABC News. Amber served in the United States Army as a helicopter pilot for almost 8 years, and she's serving our country in combat during deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan. She's a military advisor at Concerned Veterans for America and Washington Fellow at the National Review Institute. Amber is on the board of directors at the Independent Fund, an organization that supports wounded veterans. Amber, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Well, it's certainly great to have you here. Thank you so much for your service, Amber.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks.
It's an interesting thing, women in service. To me, we have really earned our stripes, as they say, in the armed forces. And you're not just fighting for this country, but you're fighting for those who have fought for this country. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Veterans Administration and the scandal that's going on there. Give me, first of all, a little update on that scandal, if you will, kind of what your take is on what's going on inside the VA, and then we'll go further into what can be done about that.
Well, the original scandal broke in end of April, early May in Phoenix, Arizona, at a VA facility where they found that employees had created a secret wait list to make it look to appear to the VA employees in Washington, D.C., essentially headquarters, that they were giving their veterans adequate appointments in the required amount of time, when in all actuality they had created a secret wait list that was 6 months, 9 months, sometimes over a year long for these veterans who were in dire need of these appointments. And so it was taking them sometimes over a year to actually receive medical care, when in Washington it looks like everything was fine and dandy.
Well, it resulted that over 40 veterans died because of these waiting lists, and that was just the beginning. That was just the Phoenix scandal. As the story broke, more allegations nationwide came out about these gaming of the systems, these unethical practices, retaliation against whistleblowers, any employee who basically spoke up about these practices that were illegal and immoral going on in their areas. So the scandal broke. Some reports have said that possibly over 1,000 veterans could have possibly died due to these excessive wait times and basically employees lying to earn bonuses and make it seem like everything is okay. So Concerned Veterans for America has been working nonstop with Congress to help pass the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act that was signed by the President earlier this week.
Now, how long has this been going on? Is this just a recent thing, or has this scandal been undercover for years? How long has this been going on?
It has been going on for years, just as you mentioned. This isn't anything that has happened overnight. It's the result of a lack of accountability culture inside the VA. And it's taken years to develop and years to get worse and worse. And it's really mismanagement, poor leadership, no oversight. But as you can imagine, inside of bureaucracy, it only gets worse over time. And so, the reputation with the Veterans Affairs, I'm a veteran myself, is, as you mentioned, it's not very good among veterans. It is extremely stressful to work with the VA and go in and get care. Like we mentioned, sometimes trying to get care is the hardest part. So this isn't anything new. The only part that's new is the actual scandal and the media paying attention to the problem.
Now, Obama has signed a VA bill to open outside care to veterans. He's going to be touting this as the solution. Is it the solution?
Well, it is the first step towards much-needed VA reform, which will hopefully lead to a solution. There's many steps inside the bill that will allow leaders, allow the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the new one, Bob McDonald, to hold his employees accountable. And that's really where it starts. Without that option for accountability for Bob McDonald to essentially fire or demote these top-level executives that are part of the problem when they should be part of the solution, they're the ones who have allowed this unethical culture to fester for as long as it has. So he'll be able to now recreate those top-level managers of the VA, fire those who aren't doing their job, and allow fresh new leadership to come in and turn the VA back into this accountability culture that it was intended for, or this customer service-oriented organization.
Now, there's $16 billion in this bill, and is that the solution? Is it just more money? Is that what makes this better for our veterans?
No, I do not agree with the money that was thrown in with this bill, because essentially it's giving the VA a free pass for fiscal mismanagement. Funding has never been an issue for the VA. Since 2009, VA funding has increased almost 60%. The money is there. They are not using it resourcefully. They are not properly managing the funds allotted to them. And so giving them the $16 billion is essentially saying, okay, it's okay that you can't properly manage your finances. We're going to throw these blanket emergency funds on top of it to basically throw money at the problem, make it seem like it's getting fixed. When we all know you can't throw money at the problem, it's a management and a culture issue, and until those two things are taken care of, all the money in the world thrown at the VA isn't going to make a difference.
Well, I need to interrupt, Amber. This is Anna Little. I'm co-hosting today with Sharon Engel, and we've got to go to break. Can you hold on for about 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with our new internet broadcast partners, CCRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please check out the websites while you're at the break at ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Anna Little, Sharon Engel, and Amber Barno will be back after the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I... Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Anna Little. And this segment, we are speaking with Amber Barno. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening, Eastern Time, log on to VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to CCRWorldwideMedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. Now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show anytime, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Thank you for keeping with us, Amber. This is very, very important, and I know your time is valuable, so thank you for holding on during the break.
Of course.
Now, you know, I've been listening to your interview with Sharon, and I'm just going to interject a couple of points that I think need to be underscored here. Now, the problem that we were having with the VA with regard to medical services for our military veterans, it was waiting times, right? And delays in treatment because of those waiting times, maybe delays in referrals for procedures as some of those problems. Isn't that right?
Yes, exactly. The administrative part to medical care, so the wait times, the paperwork, the referrals. Sometimes people live great distances away from a facility and scheduling. So, yes, it was the administrative side of things that was preventing these veterans, the patients, from getting their appointments with the medical doctors at the VA facilities. And that's why one of the other points I want to make to the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act that was just signed this week and enacted into law is veterans now have a private health care option. So they're going to have the choice now if they have to wait over 30 days for an appointment, or if they live greater than 40 miles from a VA facility, a medical facility where they can actually see a doctor and seek care, then they are allowed to now have the choice to go to an outside private practice medical facility with their Veterans Choice card at the dime of the VA. So if the VA doesn't meet their own standards, then now veterans no longer have to suffer the consequences. They can go outside the VA and receive care elsewhere.
Well, that seems like it's a pretty good step toward a solution here. But the problem, it wasn't just in one or two locations. It was a nationwide problem. Isn't that right?
It is. It's extremely systemic. This is a issue VA-wide. And I still believe that we're going to see more allegations of fraud and mismanagement and unethical practices within the VA come out across these facilities. So this is by no means limited to a handful of facilities across the nation. This is a systemic issue. It's a federal department within our government, and it's nationwide. All sorts of different problems. People were creating fake clinics and these wait lists, and the employees that were practicing these unethical procedures were still receiving bonuses. So it just really depends on what level of the scandal you look at. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like it's a way to disrespect those people who were willing to put their lives on the line for each and every one of us and for this nation to continue to exist in freedom and liberty. So I'm just offended by the whole thing. But at this point, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Sharon Engel, because it sounds to me, Amber, like you're ready to start talking about solutions. And I know Sharon wants to ask you about that. Sharon, back to you.
Well, that's right, Amber. I am interested in solutions, and you piqued my interest with, of course, this idea of choice. But tell me again what the choice is. You can go to your own doctor if.
Exactly. There are stipulations, of course. And there's some goods and bads, but the best part is veterans do have choice. And we all know that makes it, you're going to have more options that way, which is better no matter which way you look at it. So if you are greater than 40 miles from a VA facility or your wait time is over 30 days, you then have the option to seek outside health care at the price, at the dime of the VA. So the VA will be paying for it. There's no out-of-pocket cost to the veteran who seeks that outside care. But something that, like I mentioned from the beginning, this entire bill is just the first step of many. So what the VA needs to make sure, so they basically don't mess this up for veterans, is they need to make sure they are communicating efficiently with these private medical facilities and paying them on time. That is crucial right there, because if the VA isn't holding up to their end of the bargain and they start having late payments, or they're basically not working with these care centers very well, they're not going to work with them. So when a veteran shows up to the clinic and says, here's my Veterans Choice card, they're going to say, oh, we've worked with, veterans before and the VA isn't paying us, or we're getting, very late payments, and we're not going to take people with the Veterans Choice card anymore. So that's where it sounds good on paper. We need to make sure it's actually enacted properly and then is sustained properly.
And if you can do that, please talk to Medicare and see if we can get that done for seniors. It's just amazing to me that the solution first is to throw money at it, when you say that really isn't the solution. The money isn't the solution. There are solutions. This bill is the first by offering this choice. Why can't we just offer choice right up front to anybody? Why the specifications on 30-day waits and over 40 miles? Why not just choice? Or is that a real solution? And if not,
Well, I agree with you. It would be nice if it was cut and dry. You're not meeting your standard. Go elsewhere without any of these stipulations attached. But we all know how Washington politics works, and I do think Congress needs to be congratulated on finally putting aside partisan politics and being able to compromise and come to agreement that's best for veterans. We haven't seen that type of actions on both sides of the aisle in a while, so that was reassuring to see that a little bit. But I guess it's not a perfect world. I agree with you. I wish we could get a very clean bill without $16 billion attached to it and just fix things with the hundreds of billions of dollars that they already receive and fix it that way. But that was what they came up with and what both sides voted on, and it worked. So hopefully now they will use it properly.
Now I would like you to give us your perfect world. Name this. You said this was the first step. What would be the next steps in getting those solutions?
Well, there's two main things. One is Bob McDonnell, the Secretary of the VA, has a tough, long road ahead of them. Reforming the VA isn't going to happen overnight. It's nothing that's going to be changed very quickly, but it starts at the top. He needs to start with his new leadership, get rid of those infected employees that are making it a bad place for everyone, and really set the standard for zero tolerance for what has been deemed acceptable in the VA for years and years and years. So that needs to be step number one, accountability. And two is some oversight and transparency. Congress needs to stay on top of this. Now that they passed the bill, they need to make sure that they are paying attention to that $16.3 billion that they just gave the VA is being used properly and efficiently, as in it's actually making the VA a better place. And then you're going to have veteran service organizations, Concerned Veterans for America, the group that I'm with. We're going to be staying on top of this issue and making sure that this wasn't something that, Congress passed and now everyone can turn a blind eye to it and just assume that the veterans problem has gone away. No, there's a long road ahead of us. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're going to be there to make sure it happens.
You know, Amber, you have named some things that the American people at large would just love to see government doing, and that's transparency. Of course, we were promised transparency, but there isn't. And accountability, and that seems to be in pretty short supply as well in Washington, D.C. So we're really interested in watching your efforts going forward to see how you lobby this and how you keep the American public informed, because truly the grassroots of America do support our veterans, do support our soldiers, and really want the very best for them. So tell me where we can find you.
For myself, you can go to my website at amberbarno.com, or you can go to www.cv4a.org, concernedveteransforamerica.org, and that's where you can find out more information about the organization and what we're doing to better the lives of veterans and preserve this nation that we all fought and sacrificed for. We'd love to have you take a look at the organization.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Amber, for the time that you spent with us today. We'll have to have you back again soon. And Sharon, we have come to the end of the show. Time flies when we're having fun. And as Rick Trader would say, we got to run, we got to go. Listeners, next week on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.